Dunleavy Jr. talked about the process of grabbing Chris Paul, the thinking behind the Chris Paul trade for Jordan Poole. Here's what Mike Dunleavy Jr., your new GM of the Golden State Warriors. Here's what he had to say yesterday about it.
Obviously looking to improve our team, and felt like adding Chris gives us a chance to get better. It addresses some things for us overall as a team. It also gives us some financial flexibility moving forward. And, most of all, with Jordan, can't thank him enough for his contributions. Like, we wouldn't have a banner if it weren't for him, and he gave us everything he had for 4 years. So really appreciate what Jordan gave us. Told him, always be a Warrior, always welcome back, and just one of those things. Felt like there's a little bit of a logjam in the backcourt, and then you get to the payroll stuff. So had to make a tough decision, but had the opportunity to get a guy like Chris Paul really was the difference for us to make that move.
And then here's Dunleavy Jr. on the current state of the roster.
Feel good. I think coming out of the season, losing the second round, you evaluate. You talk to your coaches, you talk to your players. Obviously, our staff meets and talks and goes through a bunch of stuff. So we feel like we've addressed some of the things we needed to address through free agency, through the draft, and obviously one big trade. And I like where we're at today versus, maybe say a month ago when I met with you guys.
And when did the Warriors start to show interest in acquiring Chris Paul? Here's Dunleavy Jr. on that one.
Process-wise, honestly, this didn't really even come on the table until there's stuff with Phoenix about whether they're going to pick up his option or his contract. So just started kind of the wheels churning on that, and then he got moved to Washington, and again the opportunity came up, and it just happened right before the draft. So and Steve talked it through a lot with Steve, and he was on board. The players were on board. Everybody got it. Like I said, tough to see Jordan go, but in this league, you got to to get something good, you got to give something up.
So everybody was on board, players and coaches. Dunleavy Jr. believes they're in a better spot today than they were a month ago. They keep talking about the turnovers. Obviously, Jordan Poole turned the ball over the fourth most times in the NBA, and that drove a lot of people crazy. No doubt about that. So now you get a player who is 38 and's got an injury history, and, we saw his smashing debut at the Bay Area media on Sunday. We'll have Jason Dumas in the studio, live in the studio at 8:30 to talk about that. He was there at that presser, and I know Chris Paul shot back at him about a question. They just identified, hey, look, Chris Paul makes us better with the turnovers and maybe with the attitude, just maybe. And now they're restructuring the roster the way that Steve Kerr wants it this last season in his, I don't want to say lame duck season, because he may sign an extension as much as Greg Popovich did, sign his extension to San Antonio, but they've catered to Steve Kerr and built the roster to Steve Kerr's liking there, and obviously Jordan Poole was out of favor with that.
It's such a bold move to start your tenure as GM, isn't it?
Yep.
Now, I'm sure they had this in the works in terms of like the flow chart of what they would do come off season. Like they didn't just like all of a sudden pick up the phone like, oh, we'll take CP3. Like in my mind, it's like they're thinking about this 24/7, 365, and they've got all these different names and all these different trade scenarios and things, whether they're on a tablet, on a whiteboard, however they're envisioning it. This is about as bold of a move as you can make to start your tenure as a GM as I can think of. Because one of the things Sabian did when he first took over the Giants, he traded away Matt Williams, who was a fan favorite. And I would say that Matt Williams was much more solidified in his sport and with his fan base than where JP was at. And people were devastated. And it ended up being one of the greatest trades in Giants history. Because it netted you Jeff Kent. Now, I don't know if this is going to be that, but I just remember the heat that Sabian took early on.
Right away.
Giants fans were furious. And I feel like, Dunleavy, if he's here for a long enough time, this will be one of many moves, but we are going to look back at this, and this is, not that it's make or break, but isn't this this is going to be one of those quantum leaps forward or backwards in terms of how we perceive him?
No, there's no question about it. And this season turns into a disaster, and Paul doesn't want to come off the bench, and he's making it stink about certain things, or if some guys are not happy with their playing time or their roles or not in the finishing lineup, there's going to be chatter, because veterans know how to do that, or it could be some rumblings like, yo, get me up out of here midseason, because you can't trade Chris Paul in January. And one thing we know about this regime, they will flip a player. They did it with D'Angelo Russell. They flipped him midseason saying, yeah, this is not going to work out. He doesn't fit our style.
And Kevin Durant, I know he's been bounced around, but seeing him get traded midseason kind of lets you know anything can happen.
Anything.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant got traded midseason. Thinking about that. You are listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMG FM and AC1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app and favorite 95.7 The Game for the best and most up-to-date sports coverage. And don't forget that you can also watch us every single day on our YouTube and Twitch streams. Just log on and search 95.7 The Game. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel while you are there. You know what's funny about the chat? Because you asked a question, who's going to be more beloved, Jimmy Garoppolo or Jordan Poole? And the chat goes crazy. You guys are still talking about Jimmy. You're still talking about Jordan Poole. That's the way it works. We're still talking about Steve Young and Joe Montana, you fools. All right? We're still talking about Barry Bonds. We're still talking about Colin Kaepernick. We're still talking about the Niners finding a quarterback.
I brought up Colin Kaepernick at baseball. Oh, I brought up Colin Kaepernick at baseball practice. Anytime somebody from like the second base to the shortstop, Bonte, throws a heat-seeking missile at someone's ankles, I go, yo, Kaepernick, put a little touch on it.
See?
And you know what every kid says? Kaepernick was my favorite player. They all started kissing their biceps.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, when you just say the name Kaepernick, it is charged up. I mean, forget the political angles that people take. I'm talking about the football player.
Dude, we're still looking. You same fools who are complaining about what we're talking about are the same fools who are comparing Shanahan to Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh built the damn 49ers in the West Coast.
Passed away for 20 years.
I know.
20 years.
I know. So when we say, oh, man, stop talking about Jordan Poole and Jimmy G, you don't think 49er fans, if the 49ers struggle this season, and you going through quarterback roulette with Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy,
and Jimmy G
has a little bit of success with the Raiders,
100%.
You don't think there's going to be a segment of Niner fans saying, you should have bought in on Jimmy.
100%.
Jimmy was a winner. Jimmy was this and that. So stop it. Some of you clowns like James C. _1982, just get on my damn nerves because you're the same guys who will say, we should have kept Jimmy.
Did you? So, like, I'm glad you're bringing this up. Like, I kept a notepad in my mind, if you will, when Gilbert Arenas and Antoine Jameson were in Washington.
Exactly.
I watched from afar, even though the games weren't as accessible as they are now. Like, you couldn't
You watched a lot of Wizard games.
No, well, you watch ESPN, right? And you'd go like, oh, the Wizards are winning again. Oh, the Wizards are going into the playoffs. And I would watch from afar as my team didn't make the playoffs, and I would say, God, the Warriors East. That could have been us.
Could have been us.
Right? And think about that. Think of how low I was as a fan. I was looking at the Washington Wizards bowing out in the first round going, that's the success I emulate.
Think about this one. Chris Webber played 1 year with the Warriors.
I watched his whole career wishing that
when
he was
with the Kings,
I know.
going to the Western Conference Finals, on the brink of going to an NBA Finals, and we watched Chris Webber saying, trading Chris Webber destroyed our franchise. We held on to that for so long. And how many times? How many years? That's why the James Wiseman pick. When they picked James Wiseman, the first thing people said, boy, we finally got a big man like Chris Webber. We've been looking to replace Chris Webber for 20 years. So don't tell me that we're not going to talk about Jordan Poole. We will watch every single dribble of Jordan Poole's next year, looking at the box score. And some of you haters, some of you JP haters who are all about sunscreen and floaties and pool parties last year, who totally flipped and started hating on him, the minute he goes 5 of 25 from the floor, you're going to be roasting him left and right on the chat. So stop.
Well,
just stop.
I still, to this day, get texts, tweets, and Instagram DMs from people saying, should have kept Alex Smith. To this day. And I'm like, did you not watch the final half of 2012? B, they went to the Super Bowl and were a throwaway, and they dropped 45 on Aaron Rodgers at home at Candlestick. And there are people to this day in their brain, I don't know why they think this, they think that Alex Smith would have won a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, I know.
To this day.
To this day. To this day. Alex Smith's not coming back from 17-0 down in Atlanta. That's a fact.
I mean,
come on, man. So, this whole thing about JP, move off of JP. He was a guy who was maybe your third or fourth most important figure during that championship run at times. The dude averaged 17 a game in his first ever postseason. And yeah, he struggled at times, but who doesn't struggle in their first ever postseasons? You know what I'm saying? Everybody's LeBron James struggled in his first ever postseason, and he hung a banner and you had a guy who stole the show in the locker room talking about, I'm going to get a bag, you're going to get a bag. Steph, how do you the parade down Market Street? Jordan Poole got as much love as anybody out there. So don't tell me that, hey, hurry up and move the page. Nobody's going to be talking about Jordan Poole. We're going to be talking about Jordan Poole for the next 20 years.
Did you at any time envision, whether you said it out loud or not to yourself, did you envision him being the heir apparent to Steph Curry?
I did.
Really?
I did.
You did?
Steph Curry said it. Steph Curry said it. When I leave the Golden State Warriors, my job is to make sure that Jonathan Kuminga's an all-NBA defender, that James Wiseman's an MVP, and that Jordan Poole's a multiple all-star. He's an all-star guy for multiple seasons. That can't – Sacramento series. When, who was it, Marcus Thompson or Anthony Slater or one of those guys in the Athletic, Tim Kawakabe, asked Steph Curry, what's the key? And Steph Curry stopped in the locker room and looked over at Jordan Poole and said, that's the key right there. Jordan Poole's the key.
Gosh.
That's what Steph Curry just said less than 2 months ago.
It's kind of crazy.
I mean, so how can we not look at Jordan Poole as here? Think about your dialogue. We're going back and forth about Clay, Jordan Poole.
Know.
Like, I remember, I'll never forget. And I'm not even coming down your road with this one.
I mean,
but the Milwaukee game, because we were going back and forth, and you're like, the Milwaukee game Saturday night when Klay Thompson scored 37, but you're like, I know Jordan Poole and Steph Curry was in the closing lineup. It was like cemented that JP and Curry will be on the floor
so good
in the last 5 minutes. And he did.
He looked so good.
He was so soft. He was one of the best players in the NBA in the month of March. Just a year ago.
I know.
A year ago. So don't tell us to move off of Jordan Poole. This is a polarizing player. Again, pool party. People with signs at the gatehouse saying, can you get Jordan Poole out here so we can meet him? We love Jordan Poole. The girls love him.
I can't get over 15. In a league filled with stars, he had a top 15 jersey in terms of sales. That's kind of crazy. Do the Giants have anyone in the top 50?
Not even close.
I mean, do the Niners have multiple guys in the top 10, 15? Because the Warriors do. That's crazy that the Warriors do. In a league where it's all star marketing.
Star-driven.
Right? Like,
think about top 15 players off the top of your head. Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, LeBron, Curry,
Anthony Davis.
Because
you figure that the Laker jerseys are going to sell. Tatum's going to sell.
Curry, Tatum.
Yeah.
Who else you want to go?
Right?
Yeah, I said Embiid.
I think Trae Young's jersey sells because he's Trae Young.
It does sell a lot.
Like he's a guy that everyone loves. LaMelo
Ball. LaMelo Ball's a star.
I mean, I'm just throwing out names that people absolutely love.
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic is a great one. John Morant.
I mean, John Morant's a huge one.
I told you, every practice that I coach in basketball, there's one kid at minimum wearing the throwback Grizzly jersey.
Kyrie Irving's
another
polarizing. Kawhi, Paul George. These kids are all naming Paul George as their favorite player growing up.
That's kind of crazy.
Jordan Poole out of all players.
I know.
Who a lot of you cats on the chat think is a scrub. Had the 15th highest selling jersey in the league.
So in 2023, so far this year, Stephen Curry number 1, Giannis number 2, Ja number 3, Devin Booker 4, LaMelo 5, LeBron 6.
5.
Yep, LeBron 6. This is 2023 so far. Durant 7, Tatum 8, Jimmy Butler 9. What? And Bradley Beal, number 10.
Is that the new Phoenix?
I would assume so. And then we do have a Niner in the top 10 in NFL. Can you guess who it is? Nope, it's not Nick.
George Kittle?
Trey Lance. Nope, not Trey Lance either.
Deebo Samuel? Debo?
No, and we got some Debo sound for a little bit later in the show, by the way.
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey, number 10, right behind Bryce Young at number 9.
Already Bryce Young.
Tom Brady retired, still in there, number 8. You got Justin Fields, number 7.
Wow.
Burrow, number 6. Allen, 5. Mahomes, 4. Micah Parsons, that is, at number 3.
Hey, that's a sick jersey.
Aaron Rodgers at number 2 with the Jets, and then number 1 is Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is the number 1 jersey in America?
I believe it.
Wow.
I believe it. I
can't believe that. No, I can't. I know you believe it. I can't.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts.
I hate Philly.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts.
Philadelphia, if you can hear me right now, you want to clip something, I hate your town's guts. And not the town itself. The town is beautiful. The people that live in it are disgusting, awful human beings. They're terrible sports fans.
You know, it's pretty wild, McCaffrey being the only running back there, too. The running, again, the value of the running back, not just in their contracts, but in jersey sales, too.
Let me tell you something, Spinoni. I will tell you right now, the largest concentration of Christian McCaffrey jerseys are being sold in the Sunset District right now.
There you go. Is Brock Purdy going to be in the top 10?
Oh, yeah, close. Anna already has a jersey.
In there, bro.
Anna has a jersey. She had the Brock
She
Purdy
got the Brock already?
She got the Brock last year. She wanted it for the playoff, and I told her to hold off.
What color?
I think it's a white one. It's the white one with the red letter.
Wow.
She got the replica. I was telling her to
Did
wait for the authentic.
Did you begrudgingly pay for that?
I didn't pay for anything.
Oh, so she went and got it herself?
She got it herself.
Damn, Anna, I'm impressed.
She got it. She gets those things. She spends her own money, man. She was
Well,
like,
I
"No,
didn't
I'm
mean it
getting
like
that Brock."
that. I
Yeah,
meant
no. She was like, "I'm getting this Brock." She's all in on Brock.
Wow.
She's all in on Brock. She goes, "I think honestly," she looked me in the eye and said, "I think we got our modern day Tom Brady."
When I went to the Giants game, this was earlier this year, Michelle was walking through her favorite baseball player of all times, Will Clark. She saw the Will Clark throwback jersey that they've been selling, and she had to have it. So we went and got it. That's the only time she's ever said, "I have to have a jersey right now."
No,
Will Clark's my favorite player.
The Brock Purdy she was like, "I gotta have it. He's our Tom Brady."
Wow.
He's our Tom Brady. You got to believe it. And she was locked in on Brock. Locked in. I could believe it. By the way, shout out my guy, John Sackey.
What's that?
John Sackey, producer over at NBC Sports. He just texted me, made a great point about JP before we move off of this.
Give it to me.
He goes, I haven't heard it mentioned much. And this is an excellent point. We kind of slipped this under.
What's that?
It flew under the radar. But the officials targeting JP for carrying violations the first month of last season may have impacted his game negatively as well. So not only do you have to punch, but I forgot about the carrying calls.
We talked about it early in the year, and we kind of forgot about it. It took away that hezzy move that he had.
That saucy hat. Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
You know, Nicole Diaz, Bonte, I don't think anyone think he was a scrub. I do think a lot of people felt like he wasn't willing to play his part. Going to the rim and getting to the line was his strength, yet he refused to. He just was out of sorts last year. So JP moves on.